So with that, I'll start the questions, and the first question goes to Kevin Murphy. Kevin, what do you bring to the table that your opponent doesn't? Why are you the best candidate?
I think my experience in Scranton City Council taught me a lot of things. And in particular, my experience as president of Scranton City Council during some very difficult, contentious times. It taught me how to deal with difficult people and difficult situations, hopefully in a diplomatic manner, and I really learned to listen. The longer I was there, it seemed the more effective I was. And I think the same holds true in my capacity as a newly elected state representative in the 113th District. And we've truly listened to our constituency here in the 113th District. We've done some innovative things to try to separate ourselves from the rest of the pack in providing services. We have a drive-through window that we're nationally recognized on Nightline for providing such a unique service. And I think we really brought Harrisburg to the 113th District. We've had several appropriations hearings here in the city of Scranton. We had a transportation hearing here in the city of Scranton. We've held labor hearings here in the city of Scranton to discuss issues and sensitive issues such as Marcellus Shale. And I think we've really been open. We've been accountable. And we basically kept the promises that we made when we ran for this office 2 years ago. Transparency, accountability, and respect for the people that we represent. We're transparent. All of our expenses, we are online. They're accessible to all of the general public. And we don't just meet the minimum standard. We set our own standards, and we set them really high because we have an office staff, a small office staff of 4 here in the district office that works extremely hard to address everyone's concerns as they come to our district office or if they call our district office. And we have a staff of 1 in Harrisburg. So we're not overly heavy with salaries, and I believe we're truly accountable to the people we represent.
Thank you. Mike, the same question to you. What do you bring to the table that your opponent doesn't, and why are you the best candidate?
I believe the experience that I had with the Boy Scouts of America for the last 11 years. I've dealt with budgets. Personally, with the Northeastern Pennsylvania Council, I deal with $100,000 annually that I have to generate. And dealing with the budgets, I have to make sure that I do not exceed my spending before I can't exceed my spending than the revenue that comes in. I think that's a key factor for any nonprofit organization that deals with its volunteers. And speaking of the volunteers are my boss. I see a strict correlation between the two because the constituents of the 113th districts are the boss of the state representative. You have to be responsive and listen to the constituents and find out what their needs are, not the needs of Harrisburg. Through my experience in scouting, I deal with training. I train over 500 volunteers annually with experience on how to become leaders, how to treat and teach their youth. And that's a key part in any society. We also teach them how to be part of the community because the community is a vital part of the growth of any city. If the more we get the youth involved, the better off we all are as citizens in this community. And I think that pretty much makes me the ideal candidate because I have experience in budgets, actually living within a budget, not spending more than I have, listening to the constituents, listening to the volunteers, and training them. I will be a great state representative.
Thank you. Kevin, do you have any rebuttal?
Yes, please. And I would like to acknowledge Mike and his experience and his work with the Boy Scouts of America for all these years. It's definitely noteworthy and it's very commendable. And I also respect the fact that he has worked on budgets. So he has tried to fill gaps, and he's probably tried to do more with less, just like everyone else is, whether you're in government, whether you're with a nonprofit, or whether you're handling the family checkbook. These are difficult times for everyone. But last year, during our budget impasse, we went through a $28 billion budget, line item by line item, to see if we could find any savings to pass on to the taxpayers. And at the same time, we didn't want to cut vital programs to senior citizens, to veterans, to children on healthcare programs here within the Commonwealth. So we had the responsibility of making sure that we went through everything, line item by line item. And speaking of budgets, throughout that 101-day budget impasse, I took a pledge not to accept my salary. So I know how difficult it was to balance a budget. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, we're going to move on to the Distressed Cities Act, which of course impacts Scranton greatly. As you know, Scranton has been designated a distressed city since 1992, and we seem to be facing exactly the same challenges now as we did 18 years ago. What's wrong with Act 47, if anything, and should there be a defined time frame for this designation? Mike, the first response to you.
The problem with Act 47 is they didn't allow all the members to be part of that negotiation. I believe it had great intentions to make the city get out of its debt status, but it didn't allow all the players to come to the table. I do believe there's a bill actually right now in the legislature that wants to use the Johnstown flood tax to alleviate some of those pressures that distressed cities have. There's an 18% surtax on alcohol that most people don't even know about. And with this legislation that's in the House now, they want to take a percentage of that and give it to the distressed cities to alleviate the emergency responders with the funding status that they're going through, help with the salaries that are put forth, and to get the city back on track. I'll go back to my original statement that all the players involved in the city during the distressed city status point in time were not involved in the negotiations, and in order to make that conducive and to push it forward, I think all have to be involved in that decision.
Thank you. Kevin, the same question to you.
Well, having served as Scranton, president of Scranton City Council during the rewriting of a recovery plan, during a very difficult time in the city's history, I have a great perspective on this, because as a legislator on a local level, I know that during those difficult times, we couldn't further burden the senior population that are a majority of the people that we represent here. We're already burdened with heavy school property taxes, and we're making decisions between buying food and buying groceries and medicine. So it wasn't an easy decision to come to. At the same time, we were distressed. We're not only distressed, we were under state sanction, under Governor Ridge. So our roads and our bridges couldn't be repaired because we didn't have access to our liquid fuels money. So something had to be done, and difficult decisions had to be made. I voted in favor of a recovery plan. It passed by a slim margin. When it went to the ballot, it passed by an overwhelming margin. But I know it needs to be fixed because it's been 9 years. We really haven't had any progress at all. We haven't settled anything as far as our public safety concerns, as far as union contracts. You know, 9 years is a long time. I think what we need is a lot more accountability with Act 47. A good friend of mine, Representative Mark Gergely, he's the prime sponsor of legislation to revisit and try to fix Act 47. It has to be made more fair. As my opponent mentioned, there's a money component. There's a financial component, obviously, because we're talking about the economy within the city. But there's also right and wrong and having an exit strategy that's critical. And there has to be accountability from the local decision maker, whether it's the mayor, county executive, borough manager, whoever it happens to be, because they have to be more accountable, not only to the recovery plan coordinator, but to the General Assembly, so they can craft an exit strategy. It's just not fair.